Hi there, it's May 23rd, 2024. This is episode 5 of Ronnie Holmes, Creek Boy, Wellsburg, West Virginia. About to get interesting now. The reason I say that, I have to progress here. I've spent a lot of time in the high school period and just try to give you an idea of where things are moving, how how society is doing, how me personally, I mean, everybody's different. They have their things they have to contend with within themselves, and I really, yeah, I needed to learn some lessons in life, and so I'm going to talk about when I get out of high school because it was one of the most amazing times. The high school was amazing. My friends were great. The little town that I lived in, everything was cool. I mean, it was safe and so on and so forth. But it was just a time that was moving. It was moving, and I was moving. I'm gonna just I liken it to graduating from high school in '72 was sort of like getting shot out of a cannon. You know, it there was no preparation, honestly. I mean, it wasn't as though my mom and dad talked to me about my future, or do you want to go to school? What are you interested in, and how are you going to make money in your life? There was never any of that. Um, so as I got older, I realized that, well, I need money. Everybody needs money. This money thing is it's a reoccurring theme early on. It just keeps happening. And so one thing for certain, even though I was not taught or given direction per se, I indeed was taught to work. My mother worked. She was German. She's a tough woman. She was a little gal, but she worked. She always had something going on. And well, I know for years, she cleaned uh, buildings. She cleaned the bowling alley, the local bowling alley, for years. And if I ever needed any money, uh, there, there was never any such a thing as just, I'm going to need 10 or 20 bucks or whatever. Just go ask mom and dad for it. That did not happen. It just didn't happen. That was a joke. If you need some money, my mom might give you the opportunity to come and work at the bowling alley, cleaning the bowling alley for 2 weeks for $10. Yeah, she was tough, but indeed, she taught all of us to work. Me and my brothers, sisters, we all worked. Our whole family worked, and really all of them have done it to the end. It's just somehow in us. I don't know, but there's uh, there's something to be said for having a work ethic, but there's also something to be said for having a little bit of knowledge and the ability to make some money. So his high school graduation came up and everything. I wasn't sure what I was going to do. Excuse me for wiping my eyes, but I've got a sweaty face today. But I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I just didn't know. I didn't know what was available. All I knew is that where I lived, you either worked in the coal mine or you worked in the steel mill, and it wasn't going to happen with me. There's no way, no way. It's just I couldn't wrap my head around it. The money aspect was fine. So, but whatever. I never. I think I did apply at one of the steel mills one time because my uncles, both my uncles and my grandfather, worked at the steel mill, and that was how you got a job. It was a nepotism, you know. If you had family members, then they got you on, was the term. So I had a couple of uncles and my grandfather and all that worked there, and I just I couldn't make myself do it, you know. But all right, so there are very few options. Well, just coming out of high school, and I may chronologically get a couple things mixed up because you know they happen really quick. Um, like I said, it was like being shot out of a cannon. You know, all right, you're done with high school. It's over. It's over. What are you gonna do now? Well, I don't know. I guess I need to make some money. You know, so it was just sort of I wasn't sure, but somehow, some way, um, coming out of high school, I think immediately. Um, I don't know who it was. There's somebody somehow, some way, hooked me up with some program where I had an opportunity to go to a refrigeration school in St. Albans. Well, I thought, well, hey, that's great. I got my first car and so on. But it ended up that the refrigeration school was a scam. It really was. It was some guy uh, somehow, some way, got hooked up with a state contract to have this school, and the school, it was sort of, it was a sham, you know. The school didn't have equipment. It was, they had student housing, was a bunch of trailers down by the riverbank, and the people that they had there. Well, I'll tell you what finally just pushed me over the edge with the whole thing. There was a guy, and he was a nice guy, great guy, and all that, but he was blind. Well, if you know anything about the HVAC field and the things involved in it and all that, um, a blind guy can't do it. I mean, there may be somehow, some way. I mean, come on. I see what happened with Helen Keller and all that. It may happen somehow, some way, but this guy that was running this school was just taking people's money, and the state was paying for a lot of people. I think the state was paying for me, well, and then the guys that were there that I was living with and all that. Um, Most of them are just a bunch of old dudes that were drunks and stuff. I don't know what was going on, but I mean, there were guys that were in their 50s and really severe alcoholics. But but I went there for like maybe 3 months. It was just a short space of time, and I came back home and I told my mom. I said, "Mom, that's not school. I need to I need to do something worthwhile. I don't want to waste my time with that." So I didn't. I came back home and ended up working for my uncle George in the car lot. He had like a sub lot of Biggio Ford in Steubenville, Ohio, and that his lot was used cars, Biggio's used cars, and it was downtown. So he hired me to take care of the cars and do the miscellaneous stuff. It was just a fun job for me. I got to drive all the cars all over the place. Just a kid job. But uh, some of my friends got a job at Eagle Manufacturing, and Eagle was to have an impact on my life. But before that happened, okay, so I get out of this school, and then my best friend Don Kemp, he comes to me and says, "Hey, well, let's go in the army and be airborne rangers and jump out of airplanes over Vietnam." And I said, "Oh yeah, sounds like a grand plan." So, you might as well, not doing anything anyway. And and so we went off to Pittsburgh to take the testing for the Army, and we took the Army test and we took the airborne test. And I've told the story a bunch of times, so if you've heard it before, just let me indulge you. But but so we took these two tests, and the uh, the Army test, of course, was really simple because that was Vietnam era, and there was nobody gonna fail the Army test. You were qualified, you know. I mean, some guys that were pretty bad shape had no business going in the Army went in. But whatever. So we came out of the test, and I said, man, I said, what'd you think of that airborne test? They were asking all these questions about can you find your way around by the position of the sun, and can you make your way through a rocky field at night, and all. I'm thinking, man, no, I bust my butt, but. So I came out of there just shaking my head, saying that was weird. And my buddy Don, he says, I just told him I could do all that stuff. I said, what? He said, yeah, I just said sure I can find my way. Yeah, I just told him I could do all of it. So we got the results from our test, and of course we both passed the Army test with flying colors, but I missed the airborne test by 1 point because I was just honest. I didn't know that stuff, and so so the guy says, well, don't worry, you guys, you because we wanted to go in the Army on the buddy plan. That meant you go in together, you stay together, you're stationed together, doing the same job and everything. You're buddies through your whole military experience. And so he said, you just go in, and at the end of basic training, they'll ask you who wants to go airborne, and both you guys raise your hand, and it's no problem. And I said, I didn't trust him. I just thought, yeah, you rat, you're telling me some stuff. But so I decided, no, I'm not doing this. Well, it ended up that my best friend Don and I both got a job at Eagle Manufacturing. Eagle was a block, not even, it wasn't even a block away from my house. It was two buildings and a street across the street from my house, and it was just a part of life. They made gas cans, and they were quite good at it, and so it was another means of work. It didn't pay as much as the steel mill or the coal mine, not quite as much, but it paid pretty good. And when my buddy got a job there, I said, well, I want to get a job there too. And so we ended up working at Eagles. I did for a year and a half. Okay, so I went to work 10 hours a day, 5 days a week, and then 4 hours on Saturday for a year and a half. You just worked. So uh, it was an eye-opening experience, and it was a real lesson in life. Okay, it taught me some things. All right. Well, the first thing it taught me is I am not a factory worker. Just like I wouldn't be a good steel mill employee or coal miner. I just did not. I could not stand there like a monkey and take those gas cans off the little hook and put them down the table and slide them over to a guy who threw them in a box. And oh, it was awful for a year and a half, just waiting for your next little break or your lunch, or oh my God, it was miserable. My whole life was stifled. I felt. And so uh, the working at the factory, it just instilled this drinking thing even more, because the all the guys at the factory, they all drank and did drugs and whatever, and that was the recreation, that was the habit. We'd get off work and right across the street from the factory was a little bar, Lucky's Bar. I think it's still there today, uh, but got into the habit, and just get off work, get blind drunk, uh, go out prowling, do whatever, whatever was going on at the time, whatever trouble could get into. Yeah, it was. It was just wide open, just wide open, and I really got a lesson. I got a lesson. I got a lesson that I have to be able to think. I have to have variety. That it was like a punishment to me, and and I swore from then on. I said, no, I will never again. I will never again work in at a factory. I did just a few times at temp agencies, but it was a wretched experience for me, just to stand in one place and slide cans and oh man, and then of course the mindset of the guys that I worked with, it was pretty bad too, but they were good friends. I had a lot of good friends, and we managed to enjoy the time. I mean, some of those guys, that was their life ambition there. That was what they were going to do, and they were content to get up every day. They knew what time the buzzer went off or whatever, and they got off and they went home, and another day at the office to them, and I felt like I was tormented the whole time, just tormented. But that's just me. That's my personality. So all right, so where am I at here? So now I'm working at Eagles, and my buddy Don Kemp is living at my parents' house with me. He moved in with us, and I can't even remember when it was, but he moved in. His parents were or his mother was Jehovah's Witness, and so he was sort of burnt out on the whole going to church 5 or 6 days a week, and all that. He needed to get away, so he came moved in with us. Yeah, my mom didn't care. So so Don and I were living together. We were working together at Eagles and all that, and I mean it was just a big old wide open party. We weren't going in the army, and c'est la vie. What you gonna do? So we're working at Eagles, and some guy starts to work there, and he's a young guy, and he's talking all kinds of trash, but he said he had an uncle that lived in Arizona, and that his uncle told him that if he could just get out there, that he could get him a job in a copper mine or on the railroad. So some kind of big money job. Okay, whatever. And so this guy sort of got me interested, and my friend Don Kemp interested, and our buddy Fred Walden interested, and so we went on a grand adventure, and it didn't last at all, at all. We were gonna go get these big money jobs and stuff, and oh, it ended up we got out there, and Don calls back home, and his girlfriend. Whoops. Sorry for dropping you. His his girlfriend uh, breaks the news to him that she is expecting, and so he said, "Oh man," he said, "I need to go back to West Virginia. Man, we just got here, you know. Well, we did just get there, but when we got there, this contact guy that we were supposed to have, you know, the boy that told us about all this job stuff, his uncle, blah blah blah. Well, he backed out at the last minute, and so we said, well, let's go. You know, we made all these arrangements. Let's just go ahead and go. Well, when we got there, the uncle, he was a nice guy and all, but he said, I don't know where he got the impression all this was going on. He said, no, he said, it's, um, that's not really so, you know, so here, the job wasn't there, and the girlfriend was expecting, so we just turned around and went back, you know. We started driving back and had the old 64 Chevy panel truck with all our stuff in it, and it was hilarious. It was just hilarious because, because on the way back, uh, we had some mechanical difficulties in it was Las Vegas, New Mexico, not Las Vegas, Nevada, Las Vegas, New Mexico, and it was just a tiny little town, but we were driving, and it was in November because there was a cold wind coming across that open area there, and I was driving, as a matter of fact. It was like 4 o'clock in the morning. We were, you know, trying to just drive through. 4 o'clock in the morning, and the truck just died. It quit. The red light comes on, off to the side of the road, you know. And I thought, what in the world is going on? Well, it wouldn't start, and I mean, it was ferociously cold. So we finally, you know, we thought, what in the world is happening here? So we determined, well, it must be the fuel pump. So two of us, there was three of us, and two hitchhiked into town and bought a fuel pump and brought it back, you know. And so we put the fuel pump on, and it still wouldn't start. Still wouldn't start. So I thought, well, you know, maybe as cold as it is and this wind sitting out here and all this, maybe the fuel line's frozen. So it was we were working in shifts because it was so cold. So it was my turn. I went crawled underneath the truck just to see if I could determine whether the fuel was flowing. And I pulled this hose off. It just let go. This gas line hose, and that gas shot straight in my eyes. Well, my immediate instinct, was to turn my head. And when I did, that gasoline poured down inside my ear. So it was like my eyes were on fire because I had fresh gasoline in them. And inside my ear, this horrible burning because that gasoline was on my eardrums and stuff. You know, I mean, it was bad. It was bad. All I could do was just flush my eyes, but we really didn't have anything. I just squalled for a while, and we ended up getting towed into the city, and got a motel and figured out what was wrong. What happened to the truck was the timing gear, the timing belt. It was a belt. So the timing belt gave out. So we put another timing belt on it and all that, and took off, and well, let's see. You put the timing belt on it, and we took it down to the local garage and had them time it, and we took off from there, and the truck just was running like a dog. I mean, it was awful. We drove from Las Vegas, New Mexico, to my driveway in Louise, West Virginia, okay? We pulled in the driveway the whole trip from Las Vegas, New Mexico. We never went more than 45 miles an hour. We never shut the car off, the truck off. I mean, it sputtered, it coughed. There was a guy that was hitchhiking. We kept passing him up, and he'd pass us up. And it happened like 3 times. He just pointed at us and laughed, you know. But yeah, it was bad. But I pulled that thing in the driveway, and it was just like it went, and that was the end. That was it, you know. So I gave it to my brother-in-law, Frank Brennan. I said, "Here, you take it." And what happened was those people at the gas station had timed it opposites, like 180 out, you know, completely opposite direction. So that's why it wouldn't run. So yeah, that was interesting. So all right, so what's happening during this course of time? There's uh, basically an excessive amount of drinking. You know, there was just it was just ridiculous. You know, daily drinking, drugs, whatever, and everything. It just expanded and expanded. You know, and I don't know. It got to the point that within a couple of years of being out of school, that I was burning myself out. I really was, and I was not content. I didn't like the factory. I didn't like coal mines. You know, I didn't like steel mills, and and I thought, well, yeah, what are my options? What am I going to do here? And then along comes another friend, my buddy Jim Dayob. Um, Jim, and I don't know if I mentioned him much, but he was quite the guy. He really was. He was a good friend. He was a massive man, bodybuilder. You know, yeah. Matter of fact, he competed in the Mr. Pittsburgh bodybuilding contest. I don't know if I mentioned that, but he did. I went with him, and it was really amazing. But yeah, he was a big old boy, and he he came to me and he said, hey, um, let's go in the Air Force together. And I said, okay, sure. When you want to go? And he said, he said, well, you know, I got to go to the recruiter, got to go to whatever certain day, certain morning, whatever. And I said, yeah, well, just come by and get me. I did my typical stuff the night before. I was out just blind, drunk, you know, barely home by the time he came. And I hadn't even made it to bed. I was laying on the couch, you know, sprawled out, didn't make the bed even. And he comes in and he says, well, you ready to go? And I said, no, man, go ahead. Um, I'm going to go in just a little bit. I said, you just go on. I'm going to go in, but not right now. And I didn't, you know, just a few weeks later, I decided that was what I needed to do, and signed up for the Air Force, and it was yeah, well, I mean, you know, it's off to the races, and life is I'm gonna liken it to, you know, the pinball machine. You know, I got shot out of the pinball machine into the world, and now what do you do? You know, what is it? Who am I? What for is this? You know, is it just is life money? You know, what's this about? And so the going into the military was really the I'm going to say the beginning of, you know, something a little more serious. You know, I knew that working at the gas can factory was not ever going to be me. You know, it wasn't a serious endeavor, and you know, come along and you go into the military, and it's serious. I mean, you know, I don't care. You know, you hear all kinds of inter service rivalries. You know, you hear jokes and how I had a Marine colonel one time. I mean, we were older. You know, I was in my 50s, giving him an estimate in my business, he was a retired Marine colonel, and he said, son, you ever in the military? And I said, yeah, I was in the Air Force. He said, well, look, if you get some time sometime, he said, come on back by, and I'll tell you what it was like to really be in the military. I said, oh, okay. Yeah, well, it ended up. I'm awfully glad that I went in the Air Force and not jumping out of airplanes over Vietnam. I mean, it just it that one point on that one test, I'd have gone. You know, if I said, yeah, I'm going, we're going to jump out of airplanes over Vietnam, then that's what we would have done. But just because of that one point on that one test and the uncertainty that it caused, I said no. And then, well, of course, just when it was me and Jim Deob, that was sort of, uh, I don't know. I I just needed to do something, I guess, and so I did. I went in, and it was uh, it was interesting. Uh, I had my mom take me down to the bus station to go to basic training, and lo and behold, my dear friend Jimmy Lalone was at the bus station. My mom dropped me off, good luck and so on. I go in there, and there's Jimmy Lalone. Went to high school with him. And I said, Jimmy, what are you doing here? And he said, I'm going to Cleveland. He said, I'm going in the Air Force. I said, really? He said, yeah, what are you doing here? I said, well, I'm going to Cleveland. I'm going in the Air Force. And so we ended up going to Cleveland, and we went in the Air Force, and it was an adventure. So that's gonna be my next episode. I don't know how long I've been talking, but that period after high school, it was wild. It was drunken. It was irresponsible. It was pointless. It was clueless. It was dangerous, and I never did get arrested, and never did. I don't know. Never did have any real consequences for most of the stupidity, but life goes on. So I'm going to be headed off to the military, and see what the next phase has in store. Good evening.